Hey everybody, this is Joe Sangle with the Monday Money Tip podcast presented by Fully Funded Life. I'm joined as always by my co-host Megan Hibbard, and we have a special guest today, Brandon Bilbo, Pastor Brandon Bilbo from Houma, Louisiana. Did I say it right?
You said it right.
Okay. And I'm telling you right now, I've got a lot of great memories from when I came and visited the church that you and your bride helped start, Cross Church, 10 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah. We launched so January made 10 years. We just celebrated our 10-year had our 10-year anniversary celebration just like this last weekend, and so it was a great time. God's done some awesome things. When we launched the church, that my hair was on top of my head. Now it's all on the head. But yeah, no, it's been a fun journey. God's done some awesome things.
That's awesome. And I loved when I visited Houma. I went to a great restaurant there. There's a big giant stuffed alligator. And I listened to some Swamp Pop on the radio. Swamp Pop. And it was awesome. And one of the things that I found that we shared in common was a passion for real estate. And so that's why I wanted to have a conversation today, is to kind of talk a little bit about your real estate journey and what got you into it, what have you learned, and help others. When I travel and speak and I teach these classes, real estate is one of those things that a ton of people are interested in. But they just, because of the cost, because of a lot of other things, they're just really intimidated by it. But you've made the jump. So I thought we would start by saying, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and about your real estate journey.
Yeah, so I'll kind of back up just a tad bit. Before I became a pastor, I was actually a financial advisor. So, in essence, sold stocks, bonds, mutual funds, that whole thing. Would help people with retirement planning and things like that. And had always had a lot of questions about real estate. Always had kind of a passion for it because I'm somewhat handy. I like doing some work with my hands, and I like the idea of an investment that I can go do something to, and I can change I can force appreciation, right?
Yeah.
So like, it doesn't matter if I own Coke stock. It doesn't matter how many Cokes I drink. I'm probably not moving the market myself, right? But I could go paint a wall, and all of a sudden, like, now I force some appreciation. So I've always liked that idea. I remember in college talking to some agents and brokers that were at my dad's church, asking them questions, and they all kind of put me off of like, oh, you just need a lot of money. You just need a lot of money. I wish I had a Joe Sangle in my life 20 years ago. But anyway, so fast forward to as I'm a financial advisor, I was doing retirement planning with people. And I would sit down and I would see this vast difference between somebody who had, and I'm not talking about like this massive portfolio, like 5 properties that are just about to be paid off, entering into retirement. Like somebody who has 4 or 5 properties right at that point of being paid off as they're entering into retirement versus somebody who didn't. It was a massive difference. I had clients who would have literally a few $1 million, and they would somehow run out of money. And then I would have other clients, 5 properties, right at that point, we're going to have them all paid off by the time we retire. Well, if you're making $1,500 a month gross, you're saving a little bit for repairs, right? Let's say you net $1,200 a month off of those 5. That's $6,000 a month. If you add Social Security, if that's still there, right? But if you add Social Security for it, like most people can live off of $7,000 a month, $8,000. Like that's a pretty good retirement.
That's a good retirement income.
Yeah, and so really at that point, you need enough money saved for a new roof and a new hip. Like that's kind of what you need saved. And after that, I mean, like you didn't have to have this large amount of liquid cash. And so as I'm doing these calculations with people and I'm selling stocks and bonds, it's just like something in the back of my head. Okay, this is something we've got to do. So fast forward a tad bit, we launched the church. I was bivocational, but then I walked away from my job as an advisor, just to be, because this is my calling. Like I know what God's called us to do, and that was a great career, but this is what I'm supposed to do. And so we took, a massive difference in pay and all of this, and so I just wasn't in the position to be continuing to invest for my own retirement. And so right about the time we had you come in to our church to do an FLE, which I can pause and maybe you can explain what that is for a second here. But I
Most
don't
of
know
the
if you
people
want to jump in.
watching this podcast found it by attending a financial learning
Okay.
experience. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean that's you were coming into our church to help our church with that, and we're on the back end at that point of not only COVID, but our community got hit by a massive hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
Most people's homes had been damaged, and so you talk about money being tight. Insurance companies, I, I have a lot of opinions about insurance companies because a lot of them they're just there to receive the premiums and not really there to help on the back end, and that's what we were experiencing. And so you were coming in to help us with all of this, and in that process, as I mean, it was probably the after COVID and after Hurricane Ida, one of the best you know single thing that we did in our church, just like well attended and everything, of people coming out because we're just like, we're hurting financially, we need to do something. And so you're coming out to do that. And right before that, my wife and I had been talking about, we've got to do something that's a little bit more aggressive than just investing in a 401k. And I don't really consider real estate super aggressive, but I do think you have to have a little bit higher risk tolerance
Absolutely.
than somebody who's just buying bonds. And
Yep.
like if that's all your risk tolerance is, that's great. Like, but you just got to buy a lot of bonds to retire on that. But we've got to do something a little bit more aggressive. And then my kids are getting older, right? As of right now, my oldest son, he's 14, he's a freshman in high school. Like I've got 3 summers left, and he could decide he's out of my house, which is so scary. But beyond that, like, how am I going to pay for college? How am I going to? I pastor a church, so like, there's only. It doesn't matter how large the church is or whatever else. There's only a certain amount that I'm going to feel comfortable making from a
Right.
nonprofit because I want money going to going to the mission of what we're doing, and so to provide for my kids and our own retirement, we've got to do something. And like it really was, you were a blessing to our church, you were a blessing to me, that we sat down at that restaurant, Boudreaux and Thibodeau's,
There we go. That's the
and
name.
all the Boudreaux jokes that you've ever heard, I know them, they're real stories, right? That's anyway, so we sat down and I started asking. I mean, I was firing off a million questions on like, what do you do and how do you do this and where you go, and you were so gracious to not only answer a lot of those questions, but point me in the right direction. Which I will say, not everybody has the opportunity to sit down with you one on one and have that conversation. But I do know that you guys offer that one on one coaching, which I think for so many people would be so beneficial to sit down with somebody who is not getting they've been there before, right? Like I like how Robert Kiyosaki talks about it, how you want to get advice from somebody who this is how they make their money,
Right.
right? Like I don't want to get advice from somebody who's paid, by selling me a product. I want to get advice from somebody who's been there, they've done that. And if you don't know those people, right? Like if you don't have those folks in your life, like get in a coaching where you can get those folks around you. And so that's what started the journey, that you kind of gave me the shove and you were like, dude, just get out there and do it. Get fired up. Let's go.
Let's go.
And and so we did. You pointed me in the direction of some podcasts, of some books and things. And I've already read a lot of books, but we decided, being pastors, if we're going to invest in our own community, for us, I didn't want to be a traditional landlord, just because I felt like it was somewhat of a conflict of interest for me to evict people that I'm then inviting to my church, right? Like that's just kind of weird. And so we decided to go the short-term rental route, and so the podcast you turned me on to then kind of spun off into some other things, and we did a lot of research. decided just, okay, we're gonna take the jump. And my wife, Rochelle, she's found all of the properties that we bought at this point, right? So I think she just may be better at finding deals than I am. I don't know. But she found this property. We're at the point, we're about to make the offer. And you know how it is, like I felt like Peter about to step out of the boat. Like how nerve-wracking is that, you know? And you know other people have done it, but like that's not me,
Yeah,
right? And that's what we say, like the difference between major surgery and minor surgery. Major surgery is done on me, minor surgery is done on everybody else.
that's right.
And so we man, I was nervous, and it was the night before we're putting in the offer, and I saw a video by a Christian businessman. I don't even remember his name, but he was talking about his faith, and he's talking about what he does in business, and he said, I take calculated risks because I know the Almighty's on my side. And it was just like the last bit of assurance that I need to put in the offer, take the step, like just jump in. And anyway, so we're at the point where we're 2 years beyond that. We've got 10 doors right now. We're about five of them, half of them we're in the process of working on. The other half of them, we're doing short-term rentals in our little bitty town that is not known for people traveling to. And like it's working. And so I'm not seeing huge cash flow personally right now because everything we're doing is going to the next thing. But within the next 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to be really good. Like
Yeah.
I'm no longer worried about how do I provide, how do I pay for college for my kids? I'm not worried about my retirement. Like if we stop right now, retirement will be taken care of. If we stop right now, their education is taken care of. And then it's been something fun for me too, because the boys, I'm a big proponent of, nowadays we don't teach our kids how to work hard. And so
Yeah.
I want them to have good work ethic. So that's what we call the houses. Like the first house we bought, that's my oldest. His name is Maddox. This is your college fund. And so let's go work at your college fund today. And then the second one was Marshall's college fund. Let's go work at your college fund. And then the third one is mom and dad's vacation fund. So let's go, right?
That's the one. That's awesome. That's very inspiring, and that happened in like 3 years. So are all these single families? Are any of them duplexes, multi-units, fourplexes?
Yeah, so the first one and the last one we bought were our single families. The second one we bought, it's not really a duplex, but there's a lot of houses in our city that they were built in like the 70s where they've got like a studio apartment behind them.
Okay.
And so the second house, it's two doors. The front house, it's like a two-bedroom, one bath. It is super cute and does great on Airbnb. And then we've got the back house that's just like a little studio apartment. And so and then the third deal that we did, um, it's funny. An old boss of mine used to say, "It's amazing how lucky you get the harder you work." Right? Now, that being said, being a believer, I do think when you take steps of faith, I think God sees you and meets you right in the middle of your steps of
Absolutely.
faith. And so the third one that we did was it was just a providential deal. It was a neighbor to the first property we bought. She came to us and said, "Hey, I'm looking to sell. I've owned this property. Like I grew up in this house, then I bought this property from my parents. It actually had a fourplex and two single family homes on it. But because it was six doors on one property, it was considered commercial property.
Yeah.
And so we went in, we bought it. It's funny because it's in the middle of this residential neighborhood, and it was grandfathered in. Like nobody else has like this fourplex and all of this, in the neighborhood. So it had to go by this commercial zoning, and the commercial zoning, like there was only a couple guys who would appraise it, and so it like highly underappraised what I know it's worth. Her rent was really low, whatever, but that was a good thing when we're going in and buying it. We actually rezoned it and got one of the houses on its own, which just by rezoning it forced appreciation, where that upped our appreciate like our net worth by about 100 grand just by changing the zoning on it, which is insane, right? It's all monopoly money until you sell it, right? Like,
Right.
or until you refinance it. But like, what was totally a God thing. And so, we went into it. I didn't have the money to fully renovate everything, but even in that, one of the things you told me coming in, you said, go make good relationships with a local bank. So we did. So I'm like, okay, Joe told me to do it. So Joe said to do it. Let's go. And so made a great relationship with a local banker, and I called him. At first, he was like, "Nah, I don't think we want to look at this deal." I was like, "Okay." So I found somebody else, and then I went back to him. I was like, "Hey, somebody else wants to go to the dance with me, but I know you like dancing with me, so let's see what we could do." And he came back, did it as a construction loan, which gave us enough money to renovate the big house. But by doing it as a construction loan, we got into it really with no money down. I had to pay closing costs and I had to pay our insurance, which in South Louisiana, insurance is ridiculous. But like, um, but it wasn't like, it's not this 20% down, all the stuff that everybody freaks out about. Like it was very little bit down. Like anyway, it was
That's amazing.
really cool deal.
So I really appreciate your sharing all that. And it is stunning that one of our team members wrote a book called God Honors Movement. And it's just his observations in his life and in the life of so many others, that when you take a step of faith, that the next step is revealed. You may not know the next 5 steps, but every step, the next step is revealed, and then God shows up and works a miracle. And what you've just described in a course of 3 years is you went from, hey, I'm a pastor, I'm a founding pastor of a church, and I'm laying up a lot of treasure in heaven. I've given up investment advisor income, which building a book of business for 15 years is, you're giving up a lot. And here God made up the difference. And so tell us about that date when you had that first deal. Where did your wife find the deal? Where did she find it? What's her secret? And tell us what was necessary to help you pull off that first deal.
Okay, so for us, she just started. We both started searching on Zillow. Like, just let's start looking at things. We were looking in a in the beginning, kind of looking at everything. Just like we don't know. It was just like throw spaghetti on the wall and
So
see
it
what
was,
stick.
but it was listings, things that were listed.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Everything was things that are just on the open market,
Okay.
right? And so listed by a broker, and so she came across this house, um, 800 square feet. It's about 5 blocks behind our hospital in our downtown of Homa. Like it's and Homa, the only way you've ever heard of Homa is if you watch Swamp People. And,
Oh,
and let
yeah.
me just say this. It's a lot
Shoot
better
him,
than
shoot him.
right. It's a lot better than what they make us out to look like, right? Like if you watch TV, you think we have 3 teeth and keep 2 in our pocket, right? Like it's a lot more than that. But that said, so she found this. We're not far from the courthouse. We're not, and so we're like, hey, let's try it. I mean, it was listed at 150, 800 square foot house, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, and let's go a lot lower and let's see what they do. And so we were able to buy it for 135, and I had some money in savings that my grandparents had left to us that when they passed, it wasn't a lot. And I'd done well with some individual stocks, but like I said, I knew I needed to do something a little bit more aggressive, and so I sold that, and that was kind of how we funded that first one, and then knowing that we were going in for a short-term rental, I used there's some pricing tools that you can use. There's one called Air DNA, and so you have to subscribe to it, and but it's worth the $20 or whatever it is a month to subscribe to it, if that's the route that you're going. And so it analyzes not only the local hotels, but it also analyzes everyone else who is renting these in your neighborhood, in your area, in your city. And so you can tell by looking at it, well, if everybody else is 50% occupied and if they're making about this gives me a ballpark of where I think I should be.
Yeah.
And And so let's take the step of faith. But what we did was I also wanted to make sure that if Airbnb didn't work, can I rent it out as a traditional rental as well? Like this is my fallback.
Right.
Even if I'm not making a ton, can I break even on that? And where interest rates are, I would break even with a traditional rental. I wouldn't be making much, but I could break even. But I think I could make money on this. And so that was it. And then within our first month, like we were making more than double, like grossing more than double what we would make in a traditional rental. And so in this town where people don't come to, like it's not like I live in Gatlinburg, right? Or
Yeah.
or Branson where people go to Airbnbs. It was just like, this is crazy. Let's try it again. Okay. And then the second one worked. So this is crazy. Let's try it again. And the second one, we'd saved stimulus money and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna go spend stimulus money. I'm gonna stimulate my life with it. Right. And
I
so,
like that.
so that's what funded the second one. The third one, no money down. And then the fourth one was paid, like the down payment was from the money we were making from the other one. So it really does kind of start snowballing at some point.
Megan, what question would you have for Brandon?
I am curious if you one or two tips or lessons that you've learned that other people either starting to get into it or they're in it and they're like, I don't know what to do. Like, what encouragement would you have for them? Like lessons that you've learned throughout this process so far?
Yeah, I do think one of the greatest things is talking to people who've been there. Joe connected me with another pastor friend that I've called a few different times. Somebody who was kind of doing the same thing on a very similar path, and just being able to talk to somebody who's been in a similar situation and somebody else who's there who's like, hey, just take the leap, take the step, do this, and then somebody else who's been there can talk about the strategies that they've done. Like that was huge. I mean, just talking with somebody who can say, hey, yeah, but this is how you're going to pay for your first son's college. Like, you don't have to worry about anything. Like,
Yeah.
it's all that first house pays for your first son's college. Like, the amount of stress that came off of me was just like, whew, right? That was amazing. So I do think building your own network of people that have been there, have done that, whether it's through coaching, whether it's through you getting out there and building relationships. Either way, I think that's a huge part of it. And I know you guys have talked about it in some of your podcasts because I've heard you say it before, but like stats say that your net worth is going to be the average of your 5 closest friends, right? And so I'll say that in church whenever we're talking about stewardship, and then I always make a joke that people are probably thinking I need richer friends, and that might be the case, right? Maybe I need to start hanging around people that are doing what I want to do, and I think that's anything, right? Like if I want a better marriage, don't go to my friend who has a horrible marriage. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. There's a guy on our staff that just he's my age, like we're both 40, hitting 42 this year. He just qualified for the Boston Marathon. If I want to learn how to, like, I don't run. If you see me running, there's something horrible
A very
behind
large
me.
bear.
Like
Yeah.
it's bad. Yeah, exactly. But like if I want to learn how to get in better shape and be in better health, I'm going to go hang out with him because he's going to have like if you want to know where the good gumbo restaurant is, then you come hang out with me, right? Like it's you go to people who've been there and they've done that, and I think that is a huge one. And then I think the second one is take the first step sooner than later. And I know we talk about that in every type of investment, right? So for podcast listeners or people who their kids are like 17, 18, 19, or you're in your early 20s, you don't really have to take the risk of real estate if you don't want to. You just max out a Roth and just sit back, and you can be super cautious. Now, I don't know why you wouldn't want to, but that's a different thing. But that said, the sooner you start, compound interest, I mean, Albert Einstein says it's the greatest force in the world.
Yeah.
And so I think the sooner you start, the better that it's going to be. And I mean, that would be to me, when I look back, I don't have regrets. I wouldn't change things over my life. Like, so when Rochelle and I got married, we were getting engaged. I was about to take my first step into real estate. I'd saved up enough money that I was gonna, I had a deal kind of lined up, and there was like a little multifamily thing. And then I fell in love and I bought a ring. And I would not change that for the world.
Yeah.
Like she, other than Jesus, she is the best thing that's ever happened to me. But I wish somebody would have told me how easy it is.
Yeah.
Because I had this misconception, this thought, this idea that I don't know, that I've got to build up this great net worth and I've got to have all of this stuff
Yeah.
put together first. And that's like saying I got to get healthy before I go to the gym. Like, just find somebody who's been there and take a step. And it's really not that hard.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I look at it, I just share with the listeners a couple of things that I'm observing is one, you're in lockstep with your bride. And so she's bringing you deals. You guys are both into this. And so do you guys manage your property yourselves? Or if you do, you're shaking your head up and down. Do you manage it? Does Rochelle manage it? Or do you both manage it?
It's kind of a combo. So Rochelle, okay, now this is gonna sound crazy because I'm a pastor, right? So I'm not really extroverted by nature. Like I'm actually a little bit more introverted. Now that said, it would be weird for me not to go out of my way if you come into church for me to welcome you and give you a hug. Like that would be weird.
Yeah.
But and I'm okay with public speaking and all of that stuff. But like just my nature, I'm just a little bit more introverted. Rochelle has never met a stranger in her life. And so it makes more sense for her, especially because we're doing short-term rentals and it's really kind of like you're running a small hotel, a boutique hotel, if you will. So it makes more sense for her to be on the front end of the client side, right? So she does all of the communication with the clients. And it is cool because there's a lot of that you can't automate, that it automatically, your locks can automatically give them a code that's unique to them. And like, there's a lot of things that can be automated, but Rochelle's going to personally check in with them a few times. And she's going to put a very personal touch to the communication, which helps you get 5-star ratings, right? Which is what your business go on. I deal a little bit more on like the maintenance side, on a lot of the hands-on side, with our cleaners and all of that stuff. And so I'm managing some of that, but we are in lockstep. It's funny because Rochelle and I's personality, it's very similar. We get excited about the same things. We're driven about the same things. And you know, I'm a firm believer that everything we do in life is based on our vision and values. And as a couple, you've got to have the same vision and values, right?
Yeah.
And so our vision and values are very much aligned. We're going to do real estate. We're going to do these things. We set for us, like some audacious goals of like, hey, let's try to get 2 properties a year for 10 years. And then let's see what happens. Now, until we get these other 5 finished, we're going to stop, right? And then once these 5 are finished, like these 5 doors are finished, because right now it's the 4-plex, and then there's a single house that we're working on. But like once those are finished, then we'll get back to it, and we'll more than make up for time at that point. But like we sit down, we make goals, and then I think the next part of our goals is also going to be like, how are we going to celebrate how do we celebrate the wins as we go along, right? Because we want to just do these things and take these steps and not celebrate what God's done. And
I love that. I think one of the things that I also want to make sure we point out to the listeners is you've been very creative. So, you know, you had this opportunity for this place that had 6 doors on it sounds like, but the idea to go get it resurveyed, get it its own tax map number to where it's its own thing now, that is what we call looking for the hidden opportunities to do value add. And that, like I've noticed this in the storage industry, people are buying storage units, but the real value is a lot of them own like double the size of the property. And they can carve that off, sell that as a lot, or they can actually double or triple the amount of storage that's available at that spot. But the current owner, for whatever reason, hasn't considered that. And they don't understand that maybe the real estate that's next to it, that's part of the property, could be carved off.
Yeah. How do you manage? So I'm a mom, I have 3 boys, chaos. But how do you and your wife manage? You're in ministry, you're doing that. It's more than a job. It's, that's your calling, like you said. And I can definitely understand that. We were in ministry for a long time. But then you have kids, so that you have that. But then you also have these rental properties that require time,
especially short term
attention. How do you guys manage doing all of that together as a family, prioritizing that? There's so many layers to it. I'm just curious how you guys manage that.
Yeah, so that is a great question, and I'll throw out a couple things with that, because I think as multi-layered as that question is, the answer is probably just as multi-layered,
Sure.
right? So from a day-to-day schedule point, I'll say this: we couldn't do anything that we do without a great team. So I do think, like in church, so God's done some awesome things in our church. We baptized 46 people this last Sunday.
Wow.
That's incredible.
God's been doing some amazing things in the church. That said, I've got a team that's way better than us, that God's brought some amazing people around us. And but it's the same thing with our short-term rentals. Like I've got a cleaner that she's phenomenal. Like like if something happened and we've got tools that'll let her know automatically when to come, when not to come, blah, blah, blah. There's but if something happened, she would drop everything to help us out. So having that team is a huge part of it. And I think before you jump into something, knowing who your team's going to be, right? Proverbs talks about it's not just counsel from one. It's not just having one person in your corner. I think it's having a group of people that are there. And so a big part of that is we've got a good team. And then I think the next part of it is, if there's things that I'm having to continually fix myself, then that means that there's a system that needs to be built around that, so that it's not constantly sucking my time from me.
Yeah.
So that's something that we'll look at, and we're constantly trying to tweak things of like, how can we make this better? How can we do this? From just like an organizational standpoint. But then from a family standpoint, you're right. Like, we're in the season now. My oldest this year is playing 2 sports in high school. And so it's going to be high school football and basketball. And he was going to play baseball, but it's, he told us, he's like, I think I'm going to take a break. But he's also, he's a great bass player. He plays on the worship team at the church. He's probably about to start playing piano at the church, and like going back. He's involved in everything. And my youngest is playing 3 sports this year. Like, it's right. So just that in and of itself, it's a full-time with the kids. It's a full-time. But everything we do, we've just decided, like, this is not what mom and dad do. This is what we do as a family.
Yeah.
And so everything we do, we include our kids in. We include them in conversations of how we're going to do this. And so, like, even with them, what we've talked about is, like, I know a lot of people, they tell their kids, hey, I want you to save up a certain amount of money so that you can help buy your own car. And that's cool. For us, we've just decided, like, we're going to help them buy their first car, and that's going to be what we're going to do. I've given them the thing of, hey, I want both of you to save up a certain amount of money. And if you get to that certain amount of money, I'm going to help you buy your first rental. Dad will cover the difference on that, because I don't want the first thing that you buy to be a depreciating asset. Well, you start talking about that with, at that point, I mean, like an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old, like, they're saving money. Both of them have like a little bit over $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 put away. I mean, like saving money, and it's, like, hey, do I really need this Xbox game? Do I really want to do this? Or, like, you know what? I want to get an Airbnb so that one day I can be financially free. So it's a lot of it we just sit down with them. Like I've given both of them a little bit of money to invest in stocks. And so we sit down And every once a quarter we'll sit down and do like a shareholder meeting. And okay, here's what you own. I've sold this. I bought this. How do you feel about it? And and they'll ask questions like, I don't want that, but maybe we could buy Nike because I like their shoes.
Yeah.
Okay, like that's valid. Let's look at it, evaluate. But like everything we do, we involve them. So like if I'm having to, if I've got to fold laundry for the next flip that we've got, Dad's not folding the laundry by himself.
Yeah.
Everybody's coming up because this is your college.
Come
Like,
on,
this
Maddox. Come on, Marshall.
Yeah, yeah.
It's my Marshall plan.
like,
We're going to fold laundry.
that's it. But like all of it, this is we put all of it that this is part of your future. Like this is how and so it is cool. Both of them feel called to ministry, and both of them feel like they're like it's cool listening to them because as they talk about it, they talk about things how one day I want to have rentals where and properties where the church doesn't have to pay me, where I can just do what God's called me to do and I don't have to take an income, which is, I mean, like all of it, it's helped us as we're even developing their own heart, their own generosity.
That's awesome.
It's cool.
Well, I'm just so grateful you took time to share with everybody today. How can people reach out to you, learn more about you at Cross Church in Houma, Louisiana? What's the best way to reach out?
So, I mean, the main thing, I'm not personally active that much on social. I just, it distracts me from life, and I'm a better human if I'm not, right? So just to be, fully candid there. But our church website is one of the greatest ways, crosschurchhouma.com. So it's Houma, it's the name of our city. Through that's where we're probably the most active.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And hey, if you're ever in Houma, Louisiana, you can go to, is it Thibodeau's and Boudreaux's?
Boudreaux and Thibodeau's.
Come on, get fired up. Brandon, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, Joe, thank you for having me.
Awesome, be blessed, get fired up. We'll see you. Hey, thanks for watching this video. There's a lot more content on our website. We got a few of them linked right here, and we got a subscription link as well. We would be so honored if you would click that like and subscribe button and go learn some additional stuff so that you can live your fully funded life.